Lesson 3: Context of Art. What is context? It refers to the settings, conditions, circumstances, and occurrences affecting production and audience response to artworks. It consists of the things that might have influenced the artwork or the artist. These would include why, when, and where the work was made. It is important to know the context of an artwork. It enables us to formulate meanings about it and note how context affects form. It deepens and improves our understanding of artworks and allows us to have a better grasp of an art's complexity and diversity. There are different contexts of art. First is the artist's background. The artist's age, gender, culture, economic conditions, social environment, and disposition affect art production. The resources a traditional artist has differ from an artist who originates from a highly urbanized environment like Manila. The initiation and training in art might also be different. Some artists may have trained and studied through formal schooling, some through workshops or apprenticeships. Some are self-taught who might have studied art by themselves.
Another context of art is nature. It is considered as a source of inspiration and wellspring of materials for art production. Tinalak. The tinalak uses abaca fibers stripped from the trunk of the banana tree and colored with red and black dyes naturally extracted from roots and leaves of plants. Using the backstrap loom, the weaver produces designs and stylized forms inspired by nature, such as kleng or crab, gamayaw or bird in flight, toffee or frog, and sawo or snakeskin. Tinikling. Many of the indigenous dances involve the imitation of natural elements like the waves of waters or the movement of animals, and many more. The famous tinikling dance is one example. The dance imagines the tikling, a local bird, as it tries to escape the field traps set by farmers. Nelsa Kerubin. She is a ceramist who experimented with iron-rich San Dionisio clay found in Iloilo. The coursed clay is prepared by mixing it with river sand and lead gaze to create elegant black pottery. Nature is regarded as a provider and as a source of inspiration. Aside from that, it is also seen as a force that one has to contend with. The availability of resources for construction is not the only one that must be considered. The environmental conditions of the area must be taken into account too. Traditional Ivatan houses in Batanes. These houses are not the typical houses you can find in the Philippines. The Ivatan people, an ethno-linguistic group of the Batanes province, built the famous stone houses for a very good reason. That is, to protect them against the harsh environmental conditions. The house protects them from strong typhoons and earthquakes. Fernando Amorsolo. He is the first to be named national artist. He has painted landscapes as romantic pictures, capturing the warm glow of the sun on verdant land or clear waters. Another context of art is everyday life. Changes in landscape, innovations in technology, and the popular types of media have dramatically influenced our relations and the way we live. Artists get drawn to scenes, objects, and issues in everyday life. Some get inspiration from personal memories. Marina Cruz. She refers to old photographs and things like worn clothes, and reproduces them by enlarging their image through painting or casting in the case of sculptures. Lirio Salvador. He is a Cavite-based artist who uses easily accessible objects like machine discards, bicycle parts, and kitchen implements to form an artwork. He would often use synthesizers and guitar strings to convert these artworks into functional instruments. M.U. She is a photographer who captures interesting patterns and forms that are often overlooked in the city. She photographed piles of garbage and somehow managed to transform it into aesthetic pictures. Cavity Collective. This group does graffiti in the streets of Cavite. They create temporary yet interesting images in public spaces. Society, politics and economy, and history. Although art is a form of expression, the works are not always created out of the artist's full will. The artist's creative process is affected by patronage like the state or the church. Changes in the society, politics, and economy affect the work that artists do and the structures that support their production. The 19th century. It was a period which brought much economic prosperity to a segment of Filipinos who later became the elite. This was partly caused by the opening of the Suez Canal, which allowed travel and trade to become more efficient between Spain and the Philippines. This paved the way for the development of secular art, which identified the affluent Filipinos as the new art patrons. The art of portraiture became very popular. It was a significant change considering that patronage was limited to the church and the colonial government prior to the 19th century. 20th century. In the 20th century, photography became accessible to local photographers as Kodak set up shop in the Philippines. The first ever film to be directed by a Filipino was based on the play Dalagang Bukid by Hermogenes Ilagan and Leon Ignacio. It was directed by Jose Nepomuceno in 1919. At that time, the technology integrating sound in the movies was not yet developed, so live music was synced with a moving image. The singer would be singing live while the movie ran. We can think of art not only as a document that gives us clues about the historical conditions surrounding its production, but also as a means to retell history itself. Brown Brothers Burden by Benedicto Cabrera. The artwork presents an aspect of colonial history from the gaze of the colonized. If we were to look at the jeepney, we will see that its style of ornamentation, reminiscent of folk characteristics, has practically effaced its roots as a post-war vehicle.
The fifth context of art is the mode of reception. Aside from considering our personal identity as a perceiver of art, it is also important to note when, where, and how art is encountered. Most often, art is encountered in museums, arranged and categorized before a public for the purpose of education and leisure. Reception is very much affected by our level of exposure to art forms that may be unfamiliar or have startling or shocking images. There are varied contexts or conditions that affect the way art is produced, received, and exchanged. Aside from affecting production, the artist's age, gender, culture, economic conditions, social environment, and disposition affect reception as well. The mode of reception is an important context which considers the moment by which we encountered the artwork and how we might respond or engage with it in relation to our personal experiences.